go. Episode 119 with Christian Greene. Thank you guys for joining. Christian is just a legend, longtime friend, and a staple here in the parkour community, doing parkour since 2007, traveling all over the world and training everywhere. I'm sure many of you know him personally. And we got to catch up. He obviously had a recent bail. If you didn't know, it'll be linked in the description. It might even be edited into the video, in Austin during Winter Jam down there. And pretty wild bail. And opened up a really great conversation about obviously his personal experience, the craziness of the bail, how he's doing, and everything that went into that and that is coming out of that, in terms of, you know, the mental health and personal development. We get into those topics really in a juicy way, and also what that kind of means for the broader community, like where we're kind of at, you know, what our thoughts are on, you know, the extremeness of the sport in some ways. And yeah, always a pleasure to hang out with Christian. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please jump in that description for all the good stuff at the end. That's it.
Well,
Here we are. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, man.
With the broken ankle.
Yeah, there it is in all its glory.
You got the Batman cast on, though. It's sick. All black on black.
Yeah, I had to have it match the fit, you know, the all black. Although this is not, but usually it is.
Yeah. I mean, elephant in the room is obviously like you had this gnarly bail and everyone wants to hear about it. So
yeah, man.
Where do we begin on that?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I fell 3 stories basically.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. I'm still kind of like processing it myself, honestly. But yeah, I was out at the Texas Winter Jam in Austin. And yeah, like the last day of it, well, I'd been eyeing this descent like the whole time. And so, yeah, I just went up to do it. And yeah, I mean, there's like a whole lot behind the mental state that was going into it. But like, yeah, I've been like processing it it's been like a month now, which is almost crazy.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So we'll take apart each piece, I think, like in sections, but obviously you posted about it as well. So, but you know, just in case, I don't think you should be averse to like going over anything that you mentioned there, but I would say like take us through that day, you know, like what was different about that day? Like or not even I want to just hear the experience of like, I think that's where I would start, and where my mind's like, okay, well, what was it like to actually experience that fall from the first person?
That it was crazy because, like, I don't know, I was like prepping it, and normally I take like so much time to prep descents, obviously, because there's so much risk involved. But the whole thing was just kind of like rushed. I mean, we were about to drive back to Denver, which is like a 16-hour drive. That we did like 2 days before. And so, yeah, I was like prepping the bottom levels. Did like the first and second floors, like pretty much like 5 times in a row without falling. So I felt good about it, like good enough to go up 1 level. But yeah, there was like a little bit of hesitation, and you know, I had my friends with me, my friend Keith and Joey, from here, from Denver. So, yeah, I just kind of like, I just wanted to knock it out, you know, so we could get home and get driving back. And that was kind of like, I had the goal of that trip was to do like a 3-story descent, you know?
Is that typical to have a goal like that, a challenge like that in mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my training has always been based around that. Like, you know, I want to do like a specific hard challenge or like a fear challenge, you know? And I've been kind of just fixated on descents recently. So when on this trip, I was like, yeah, I want to knock one out. Because I hadn't done like a new one in a while, or at least in a new place that's not like Denver.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went up on the 3rd level, and this descent was like weird because it's not like there's not a rail to grab, you know?
Yeah,
like,
those are. I've never liked those. I mean, I don't even like descents. Like, period.
The first day I did them, I was with you.
I know, dude. That's crazy. Like, I was there.
It's all
around,
your fault. Just kidding.
I've been around them and I've done a few and all, but man, I mean, I want to ask you how your feelings are on that are.
Yeah.
But so yeah, is it like I just want to kind of take little tiny specific questions. We'll come zoom back out.
Sure.
But the with the 5 tries in a row, like is that how is your process? Because I know you said you were kind of rushing it a little bit. You were trying to like knock it out. What is like normally your process, and then how did it kind of shift during this one?
Yeah. So normally I'll be at a spot for like at least like an hour or more, and I'll just rep it like a bunch of times, like 5 times. I justified it in my head because I was like, cool, I did it successfully, but really it's not that many times in a row.
Well, and I mean, I know people that it's 3 times is enough.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, everyone plays their own set of cards, you know?
And I feel like I'm usually way more on the cautious side of like everything. But yeah, with this, I've been doing a lot of descents recently, and I just felt like pretty good about it. So, yeah, and normally I'll go up to the next level and like feel it out. And if I'm not like 100%, I'll just keep going back and forth until it's like, there's no doubt, you know? But, yeah, I just kind of like got up there, and it's so weird. Like, I still don't really understand like what my thought process was. 'Cause I knew like I wasn't 100%.
So you're in cat hang, or were you like, I'm 100, I'm not 100%. I'm going to get in cat hang and see how it feels. Or were you like, how did that like moment go?
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't even think I hung off of it to feel it out or like to look at it. I think, I just went and like did it.
Yeah.
But you can see like in the video, I kind of do like a little pushback a few times.
Yeah.
Which looks like I'm like hesitating, but I mean, I was just feeling it out.
That's also, I mean, there's people like that's their rhythm. It's like they have to do 3 pumps and then they drop or something like on the first one, or everyone's got their own process. So like,
exactly.
That's like what I want to, I mean, we started like right out of the gate with like a big, like, hey, what happened, dog? Like not the best tact with me on that one.
It's okay. Yeah.
But I mean, one of the interesting things, because of who you are and how you train, like you are conservative. You've been training longer than almost anyone I know, and you're always like very methodical, very precise. What the biggest like shock was, I think, for a lot of us that know you, is that this could happen to you. It makes everyone question their training strategy and like what they think they know about themselves, because you are like a shining example of proper training, like to most of us, I think.
I appreciate that.
You know, like you have great technique. You never like egoic about it.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, maybe you are internally. I don't know, like what the inner battle is like. Sometimes the inner battle is like not the same as the outer battle, but I think like, it's just crazy. And you have so much experience, and we had talked about it when I first came to see you after the injury, you know, how there's a certain point in your training where, especially when you've been doing it for 15 years or whatever, where it's like your technical ability is so high. You've been worked it up years and years and years. And so you get into this kind of like sticky situation where it's like, all right, in order to keep growing, in order to keep like pushing my boundaries and feel like I'm kind of at my edge in the sport, I either have to go really hardcore physically or really hardcore mentally because my technical ability is already really hardcore. Exactly. And of course you can work different techniques, whatever, but I think a lot of people will understand that. And it's like both of those are hard options, because to get in crazy physical shape to push yourself to like the next furthest jump, it's a huge amount of commitment and effort.
For like a tiny amount
for like
reward.
an inch. It's like only you care and no one. And then for mentally, that becomes really interesting, because, you know, that's one of the funnest parts
higher.
about, And so,
it is crazy. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I think just like my mental state was like totally kind of out of whack a little bit. I mean, I've had like a lot of stuff going on in my life the past year. But one thing that I was thinking, I don't know if I talked to you, I think I did talk to you about this, but like I've been on like antidepressants.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually know. Maybe you did talk to me about this.
Okay, yeah. I started taking them in like October. But yeah, they kind of like lower my inhibition for a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
So I was thinking about that afterwards. Like, I was like, why did I go when I wasn't 100%? Because I never do that, you know? And, you know, it's easy to like try to pin it on one thing, right? But that was like one of the factors where I was like, oh, maybe like that was kind of affecting my mindset of like, all right, I feel like 80%, you know, I know like my thought process was like, I know I'm going to land on the wall. I know my hands are going to grab something. And that apparently was good enough for me to feel comfortable doing it. But yeah, like just those ones where there's not a rail to grab are so much like more technical. And I haven't done a ton of those. And this one too, like, it's so weird because you have to like, well, you don't have
pinch
to,
it.
but
It's
yeah,
like,
the way
it's
I
like
was doing it,
stemming. It's a vertical stemming.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a name for it, I'm sure, in climbing. But.
Yeah, right. And that was just like, that just made it so much harder for like no reason.
Oh yeah, because well, I mean, no reason. There's definitely a reason.
Like,
I know what you mean, but like,
yeah,
it's like you have to go down and then push up
Exactly.
immediately. And usually with the descent, like the cat drop technique, like all you have to worry about is getting your feet kind of like out from underneath you and getting your hands to the wall. I mean, there's lots to worry about, but it's kind of a lot simpler when you're just like, I'm going to sort of absorb and bounce off and then get my hands on it.
Right.
Or my hands in front of it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like the rail, like where it usually is, where it's easiest to do.
Yeah.
And then there's ones where people can do that and there's no rail, but it's still like the same tech.
Yeah. Or the wall, it's like, sometimes it's a narrower wall, so you can kind of overgrip it.
And sometimes there's overhangs and whatever that make it more doable. But to push up, to like stem into it, you know, there's like a few ones that have been done that are really strange, and that's like one of the strangest variations on it.
I don't even know, like, when I look back on it, I'm like, I don't even know why I was like so chill about that. Because like, yeah, like I had done the lower ones and it was fine with that tech. But yeah, it was just so weird. And there's like a little lip on the inside that like you can kind of grab. Yeah. But it's so small, it doesn't really like do anything unless you're super precise. Yeah. So yeah, I like pressed up, and I don't know, I've like analyzed it so much. Like I think I might have like let go a bit too early, like where I wasn't fully like my legs weren't fully swung in. I see. I don't know. I can watch the clip like so many times and analyze it. Yeah. But yeah, so my right foot slipped out. And then, so when I went to press up, I didn't have enough to like brace. Yeah. And then I moved my hands back to try to grab that little lip. And then, yeah, I just couldn't grab it. So I tried to. So
then what'd you do?
I tried to.
Because like, I mean, if everyone here has probably seen the clip, but for anyone who hasn't, like, go check it out. It'll be in the description. Maybe I'll even edit it into the video.
It's on my Instagram.
But it's pretty amazing what you did to save yourself as much as you did. Yeah. To be honest, like that we're looking at and we'll get to the surgery and the ankle and stuff because that's fresh. Yeah. But I mean, you handled yourself,
dude. Yeah.
In a way that, you know, it could have been way worse.
It really could have. It's so crazy. Like, yeah, I was like actually super calm in the moment. Which is crazy. I mean, obviously I was like, oh shit, I'm falling. Yeah. But yeah, like I didn't freak out really. I was just like, all right, like let me try to save this as best I can. So yeah, I grabbed like the next level down. And I think I almost was able to save it, but because my left foot was like higher than the rest of my body, it like swung me around off axis. So I like peeled off the wall. But I had enough time to like turn around and spot my landing. Yeah.
And we talked about that moment because you're kind of like barn dooring a little bit. Yeah. Your legs taking you off the wall and you're descending on one arm and you have to like time this moment. Yeah. Where you're like, I don't want rotation towards my like wrist and face on the ground. So I have to let go. Otherwise I'm going to like not get at least one leg under me.
Yeah.
But the longer I hold on, the less impact it's going to be.
Exactly.
So it's like this pretty incredible like moment that you calculate, and like, I think you did what you did.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, I was like, well, I'm not hanging on. So let me try to like just minimize this landing as best I can and like set myself up for it.
And the clip is kind of like, thankfully, but also it's kind of a tease in that you just disappear behind this truck.
I wish I had the whole
You
thing.
just hear like, baboo,
baboosh.
and you're just like, who was filming, Keith?
I have a clip from both of them.
Oh yeah.
The one that most people have seen, Joey filmed that one.
Oh, Joey, they're just like, I mean.
Yeah, I have another one from Keith that's just more zoomed in.
Yeah.
But it's the same clip, really.
Yeah. But then they're just like, oh.
I mean, I don't blame them for shutting it off, but
yeah, no, like, what are you gonna do? I mean,
yeah, I was talking to Joey about it, and he was like, because the thing is, I don't remember like anything after
the fall.
I just remember like, all right, I'm gonna hit the ground, like after I peeled off, and that's the last thing I remember. And yeah, I was talking to Joey about it, and he's like, yeah, I came around the corner from that truck, and like, he's like, I just saw you like face down on the ground, and like I was trying to push myself up, and there's like blood everywhere.
Oh yeah,
on the ground and on my face. But I didn't pass out or anything, so I just don't remember like 3 hours of that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's always scary. Like, probably, I don't know how you feel. Like, what's scarier for you? Like the head injury, the ankle injury, or what mattered? Like, because, okay, I kind of want to break it down for people too, because the x-ray was super interesting. Yeah. Just to see how your ankle took the impact and like what gave way. And
dude, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be able to edit in like, but you showed me the bones, and like, it was really interesting because you just kind of like had the right posture and things as best you could, but the load was just so extreme that I'll let you tell it.
Dude, yeah. Sorry. I mean, yeah, it was like 20 feet to just this ankle. So my right ankle. Yeah. So I fractured 4 bones. And yeah, it's crazy how like, it's still a shitty injury, but like, it's crazy how it absorbed that. And like, I didn't tear any ligaments or anything. It just took all the impact all the way up. So yeah, it's like 4 little bones, like my navicular, my talus, calcaneus, which is like your heel, and my tibia. Like there's a crack in my tibia that's like that little piece that sticks out. It's like cracked there. So yeah, the force just went straight up. But oh, and this little piece of my talus in the back,
like broke
that sticks out. If you look up just like a picture of foot bones,
the talus was the most interesting part.
I thought. that part in the back just like totally like sheared off. Like it's just gone. They couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
took one for the team.
I know.
You're a boy, talus. The hind talus was fucking. He was there for you that day.
So yeah, I got I think 8 screws or something. There's a plate on my tibia, and then there's a plate connecting my navicular to my talus. That's like on the top of my foot.
And
so,
and then there was like some hip stuff. I know that like we talked a little bit about how just the force went all the way up your chain. Like when it's that much impact, like your whole body's trimming something.
I was
and, like,
so
your
sore
lungs,
for
your
like 2
ribs.
weeks.
Yeah,
like my whole body. Yeah, actually, I didn't really have like any pain or very little pain in my ankle, or my head. Yeah, like the first week or 2 was like my hip hurt so much. So yeah, it's like you said, I think all that force just went straight up to my hip, and like my adductor was so sore, like I couldn't lift my leg.
Oh yeah.
So it just felt like all the force went there, but it's doing a lot better now.
Nice.
Yeah, I've gotten like a lot of PT work.
Sick.
Shout out Amy Jepson, Joey's mom.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in a lot better state now, and the concussion was like scary for like a week or two. Because the first week it was fine, and they were like, yeah, they did a CT scan, and they were like, yeah, you don't have any like brain damage or anything. I just had 5 stitches, and I got this scar.
Yep.
I'm gonna be twinning with Sydney Olsen.
Yeah.
But
it's got like a crescent. It's like
yeah.
It's kind of a cool like crescent moon shape.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not the lightning bolt of Harry Potter. It's a little more like subtle. That's what's
a
up.
little moon. So yeah, I didn't think it was that bad, and then like after my surgery, it started kind of like flaring up and like messing with me. Like I would just get like dizzy, and if I'd go out, I'd be like super overstimulated and like just get headaches from like just a normal environment.
Yeah.
But the past week or so, it's like cleared up. Like Amy did a lot of like cranial work. She would just like basically give me like a crazy like head massage for like 45 minutes.
Awesome.
And that helped a lot, because she was saying like there's just so like basically I had so much adrenaline like stored in my body.
Oh yeah.
Like afterwards. Like I'm still kind of like working through it, but
well, there's that book. I actually haven't read it, so I should kind of talk out of my ass here, but there's that book, like The Body Keeps the Score.
I'm reading that right now.
Oh, nice. I'm interested. I want to read it too.
Yeah.
So you have to tell me.
Yeah, that's funny. A lot of people have been mentioning
it's
that.
Such an interesting idea. I know the premises and stuff, and it's like there's like even that moment, like there's potential for you to like remember that moment when you work in through that kind of, energetic traumas and stuff, and it just could be too much like to handle in one moment. You're like, I'm gonna have to drip this out.
That's what was really messing with me. It was like, okay, I didn't pass out, but like I don't know what happened. Like I don't remember what happened. And
so wild.
I felt like my body was like wanting me to remember, and I was like stuck in this state of like adrenaline, and like I still kind of am, but it's a lot better now. But like, yeah, like it's really hard to sleep at night, because I'll just like go back to that state when I'm trying to relax, where I just feel like I need like stimulation,
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'd be watching like really intense things at night, and like, I don't know, like I couldn't relax.
Yeah. Well, and it's important that you do, because you're trying to recover from injuries and stuff, obviously. So
it's like my body didn't feel safe. Like it's still in that moment. Yeah. And because like I wasn't afraid, like I didn't feel like fear when it happened. I feel like it was like starting to come out like later, Yeah. It's just so weird. Like, just trauma being stored in the body.
Yeah. Super interesting. How far into that book are you?
I just started it. I'm
cool.
like a chapter or 2 in.
Cool.
But
I have some time to
it's something I've been like thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways, like the past year.
Yeah. I think about it all the time, even like regardless of injuries or not, like what we do as athletes in parkour is often insane.
Even just training is like, even if you're not doing crazy stuff, like it is like micro trauma to your body all the time.
Yeah. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Because like, as I've kind of taken some wider views of my history of training, it's like some of that stuff stems from a interesting place. Yeah. Like you were saying, which, the mental state that you might be in is like not necessarily maybe it's healthiest. And so like but this might be the healthiest expression, and not to like knock parkour per se, but it's just like interesting that can like be the genesis of something.
Exactly.
And then like, and I mean, even like we said, I mean, I mentioned to you that day again, like with the Hollywood high jump that I did back in the day, like I had a similar experience. I didn't get like, severely injured or anything. I bruised my foot a little bit, but I remember that night trying to go to sleep, and my body was just like, dude, what the fuck did you just do? You can't like, just like it didn't calm down. It just like didn't trust me in life. It's like, dude, don't be throwing us off a roof like that. Like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, I'm sorry a little bit. Like I was like, I'm shit. Like I kind of felt bad for like forcing that, not really forcing it, because I felt like empowered in the moment, but still like, regardless, like you're saying,
to, like break through that like barrier to get yourself to do it.
Yeah, it's just like
it's that battle with
it was
yourself.
just a learning thing. Like we're all like learning through these challenges, and like whether they're a bail or even a successful, you know, relatively or whatever it is, or like exactly what you wanted to do. Like sometimes that is even more revealing.
Exactly.
Because then you're like, oh, you know, I did it exactly how I wanted, and maybe there was something that you were like expecting to happen after that didn't happen. So.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like I think about that a lot actually. Like just how we also like get used to just being in that state so much. And I feel like a lot of us, I don't know, it's probably still like this, but I feel like it's kind of like training has shifted more into like people are just kind of like playing and like just having more like joy with it. Not that it wasn't like that when we were training like a lot, but I feel like a lot of the people that would be like focused on like heights or like fear or like just power stuff, or just some of the top people would be like really, like if you talk to them, a lot of people are like really working through like trauma with, you know, their training and like seeking out these like intense situations, not necessarily like for the adrenaline, but like just for like overcoming yourself and like, you know, processing maybe other shit that happened to you in your life, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you're like, if I can do this challenge, then I can like face, you know, whatever comes up in life or whatever I've been through. It seems like less daunting.
Absolutely. It's a place of like power that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah.
And like you can feel stronger and stronger and like in that space. And yeah, it's come up a number of times, you know, throughout the community. But again, like,
but then
there's
you're like,
a power in that, obviously. Like it's empowering, and it's a great thing to give yourself that attention that gives you, you know, a sense of autonomy and sovereignty and all that good stuff. But then
there's a dark side.
Sneakily, you know, you'll like kind of accidentally tie your whole self-worth to that. And then all of a sudden it becomes like this whole vicious cycle.
It's so true. And like, that's why I like still want to be in it and like just kind of like train with people like the next generation and stuff. Cause I feel like a lot of people don't realize they're doing that when they're starting out. They're just like, yeah, I have so much energy and like, I just want to push. And you're like, but why? You know, like there's something going on in there. I don't know if you worked through it yet, but like, and then it like, I think it's super healthy to like work through that stuff. Yeah. With this, you know, this discipline, but you know, there's a tipping point of like, how far do you push? And like, when you get so used to being in that like heightened awareness or like, you know, just kind of like almost not listening to your body because you want to push past your mental limits. Yeah. It's like,
the body can become an enemy in the way of like your goals at a certain point. It's like, oh, my fucking knees fucking doesn't work, you know. Goddamn my knee. And it's like, dude, your knee is carrying your goddamn you're on your knee, like your knee's carrying you through this. You're doing to, like, it's screaming, dude. Help it out. So and there's like a lack of compassion. But again, it's just like it's a we're armchair psychologists right now, but it's super interesting because
it's a journey.
We've been through it, and that's how I was, you know. It's like, God damn it.
And so
and you go to war with yourself at a certain point, and then you have to and then I mean, what I've learned is that ultimately I need to be on my own team.
Exactly.
You know, I can't fucking be at war with myself.
Yeah. And it's hard to like even realize you're doing that sometimes. Yeah. And even now, like even with this, it's like, you know, I've been training for like 15 years and I still like catch myself doing that. And I'll go through cycles of like where I'm progressing a lot and I'm like, cool, I need to keep this going. Or or I'll like seek motivation from like, I don't want to say like necessarily negative places, but like, just like, oh, I need to like I'm going through this hard time in my life, so I'm going to just push in this area and find my self-worth there. And then it never like, it never quite fulfills you in the way that you want. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or you get injured or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, cause
you're forcing it.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
So I think, I don't know. I always try to like, I think it's good to like connect with other parts of yourself and like, you know, get it, if you're involved with the community, like get to know people for who they are and like, you know, like learn what they're going through. Cause like a lot of us are drawn to it for that reason, to like work through some like just inner traumas or like identity, like not knowing who we are.
Yeah, dude. Well said. Yeah, no, it's crazy because I don't think it's necessarily everyone, right? And not even the people that are doing it's not necessarily all the time.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a theme there. I think that's a really good message. Is like, be there and like be really listening and
just
make sure that we don't, you don't get caught up in, that kind of like toxic sort of atmosphere where that becomes pinnacle.
Exactly.
Like if you didn't do it, you fucking whatever. You're not worth it, or whatever. Or that's the thing that's cool because everyone's working through their own challenges and at the same time, it's just so complicated, because like you said, like it might be the only thing you can do.
Right.
It's like it's either I feel like I can only do this, or I'm just gonna
and then when it's taken away from you, what are you gonna do?
But then it's gonna then it's like, oh yeah, life will be like.
Exactly. And that's,
I'll show you what you can do,
dude. That's kind of like how I felt with this too, and honestly, I'm kind of grateful for it in a way because like, I went through a lot last year. Like, like I got divorced. That was a big thing that happened. So yeah, I've just been like restructuring my life and just dealing with a lot of like just mental health stuff and like trying to like rediscover my self-worth and like, I kind of like drifted away from parkour for a couple years. Like just during COVID and like just life stuff, adulting.
Excuse me.
So this past year I was like really like focusing on it again to like try to find myself. But it's like, I caught myself doing that again where I'm like putting all my self-worth on this one thing. And it's like, cool, I want to be like a more well-rounded person than that, and like it makes it like not fun when you're like you put all your value on that, right?
Absolutely. It's just okay, here's what I experienced at one point in my journey. Tell me if you've experienced the same. Is like you recognize there's that unhealthy pattern, but maybe you feel a little lost, and parkour becomes like, if you did build yourself around that space, it's like, all right, at least I can go to that space and feel like myself. Because out here I'm feeling like a fucking fish floundering on the beach, It's like, all right, I need to at least go swim a little.
Exactly.
And then I can try to grow legs in this new domain. But then because you're like, oh fuck, but the self that I built around here is like still the self I'm trying to work and change. So it's just like such a trap. Like you can be doing your hardest and just still like find yourself, and then it takes even more compassion sometimes, I think ultimately with yourself, because it's just a freaking beast, but you can get through it.
Yeah, that's why it's so weird that this happened, because like I felt like I got to that point again where I was like just like, all right, I'm just gonna put everything into that and like just try to push myself. And I was still recovering from like, I had like tendonitis in my left ankle that I was just getting over. And like what we were talking about, the trauma in your body, like I was already going through that like the whole past year.
Oh yeah.
And I was just starting to like feel like I was getting over it. So when this happened, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Like I got to overcome this too. Right. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. Like, the stuff the universe throws at you, where it's like, all right, like you think you got it figured out. now you're going to deal with this because you've been ignoring all these other things. Yeah.
It's like, you're just strong enough to take this bigger problem. Now. Here you go.
Like, oh, congrats. You want to
congrats, you're on level 12. It's harder than level 11. You're like, fucking, I guess this is what it's like,
Yeah, it's like
it's more fun when you're playing a video game for some reason.
Exactly.
Or it feels that way at first. Eventually, I think there's no better game than the one we all play.
Than life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you want to put all your self-worth into training? All right, well, let's see if that's really what's going to work for you.
Like, if you want it, you're gonna have to like want it after this.
Yeah, exactly.
And
maybe you need to like do a little more self-discovery that isn't based around jumping. So
yeah, and that's what's so interesting. It's like you kind of learn like, maybe I didn't want it like I thought I did.
Exactly.
You're like, because if like it, you know, at least if you like look back at the self that like was so committed, it's like, well, either I didn't think about that, or I wasn't willing to admit to myself that like, if I actually did get injured, like I would just still be all about this.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like there's nothing wrong with anything that you do, but don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because I've done, I know from experience.
Exactly.
Dude. Yeah. It's just like, I guess like I'm not willing to push through certain things because I actually am interested in other areas of life. And if I can just admit that to myself, it'd actually be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's so weird. Like all the weird little mental traps you get into.
Just a freaking C, dude.
You're like, I can't do anything else except train because it's not gonna like support this identity that I associate myself with.
Can you elaborate a little bit on like the mental state you're in and what was going through like your whole last year? Because I know that was, I mean, like you mentioned, that was probably, I don't even know which one is harder for, like to me that sounds like even more difficult, which is maybe why in my assessment again, like not to just blow smoke or anything, like I just think like you've handled this really well.
Thanks, man.
And like it's been inspiring to just witness like the way you've just kind of like taken it and
appreciate
just
that.
like working through it and just hey, you're like, hey, this is it, I'm here, I'm here for it, I'm living it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just been a rough year, like, so it kind of sucks that this happened because I felt like I'm like, man, I've just been overcoming all this other stuff. But yeah, like you said, it's helped me like kind of take it more just like, I don't know, I'm not as like hard on myself about it. But yeah, like just getting divorced, that really sucked. And then basically my whole life like got just like upended overnight essentially. So yeah, I've just been like kind of like living by myself for the first time really, and just like just a lot of working on like my mental health because I got like diagnosed with depression, and I've been dealing with that like even before this happened, like kind of basically like my whole life or like my whole adult life.
That would make sense. If you, I mean, I actually don't understand like the diagnosis and all that stuff that well, but it seems like it would be there if you were. It's like it's there. So, like,
it's like it's just there.
I'm glad you've figured like you're getting help for it. And,
it's hard because like it becomes so normalized when you don't like when you've kind of like grown up with it. So I didn't do anything about it for so long. So yeah, like just this past year I like started going to therapy, started taking medication, and so I've just had to like work through all this kind of like not completely by myself, but like, you know, after like getting out of like a 5-year relationship, it's like cool, I'm like on my own, like dealing with my shit. So I've been like, I've had to like pull myself out of some really low places. So yeah, like when this happened, I'm like, all right, like, it sucks, but like,
I've been through work. I've pulled myself out of stickier situations than this.
And what's interesting is like, so when I got on my medication, in October, I took like 2 weeks off of work because I was going to go on this trip to like a road trip to a few jams and stuff. And like once I was not working, I just like kind of had like a mental breakdown. I was like, I can't go. Like I just was at this point where like I couldn't get myself to do anything. Like even just like basic stuff like cooking or like just getting up or like just day-to-day stuff. And I wasn't like sad or anything, so I was just like, I don't know what's going on with me, you know. And I talked to like my psychiatrist, and they're like, that's when I got diagnosed with depression, because I thought it was ADHD. I was like, I just can't, my brain doesn't work. Like I can't focus on anything. So yeah, that's when I got on the meds, but like basically I like isolated myself for like 2 weeks and just sat with like my thoughts, and like because I had been like avoiding it and like just repressing all this stuff for like the whole year.
What was it that you were repressing, you feel like, the most, or all of it?
Just everything. Yeah, like just like processing my divorce, and like just a lot of stuff of like I don't know, like not feeling like self-worth, and like just figuring out like why I was like so hard on myself, because I would just like have this really negative like self-talk, and I didn't really know like why or like where it's coming from.
What did you learn, like, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's weird because it's just so like vague, and it was a few months ago. So.
Well, I'm sure it's like universal,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like I tend to like isolate a lot when I'm going through those like periods where I just feel like I don't have enough like worth to be around people. I'm like, I don't have anything to offer, right? And yeah, so one of the things I've learned is like just that I struggle with like people pleasing and like codependency and just like all these things that like affect not even just my like relationships, but just like friendships. Because I feel like I'm not able to like connect with people a lot unless I can like do something for them, or like, or if I'm like helping them through something, that's why I'm like so like focused on trauma, because it like I understand it, I think. So that's like one way I connect with people a lot, is like, tell me your problems so we can relate and I can like help you through it,
Oh yeah.
But it's not not always like the most positive or healthy way to like connect,
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you can do some really good work and then the work's done, and if you keep focusing there, then you're kind of like spinning your wheels.
Exactly.
So I know that feeling, and I can definitely relate. I mean people pleasing, I think it's such a universal, like I say, and like I know that that's such a huge thing. I'm seeing it everywhere, at least with like people I'm following, like we're
boundaries.
All
it's like
learning boundaries, like
topic.
This is some of the stuff that we have to learn as our generation, I think.
Exactly.
Or at least it's like something that always has been learned, but we're the first people to talk about it as like a generation, maybe. Or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, like publicly, at least we can all see it now because of the internet. But yeah, I very much resonate with that, dude. Like I hear you.
Yeah.
Like I think that's real easy. I remember there was a time when I was at Burning Man, the one time I went, and everyone's being like real nice.
Yeah.
And I had this like, I was like thinking it. I was like, why is everyone being so nice? Like, what? No, I'm not doing anything for anybody. Right, like, why is everyone like?
It's like
what's going on here? Like, I couldn't. And then I realized, at some point in that weekend, I was like, oh, like I don't think I'm like worth it. Like you're saying, like I just don't think like I matter, and like nothing I do is of value unless it's like overt. And it's just like it's such a weird thing to accept because it's so easy to see it from the other side.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, we love Christian, we just love that he's here, we don't give a fuck what he does,
and like,
but
you like can't believe it for yourself.
It's so weird.
And then you like isolate because you're like, I don't feel good enough to be around people or my friends or whatever, but then it's self-perpetuating because you're like closing yourself off to like these connections, right? And
then you can come back to them with like, like you said, energy that's like actually, it doesn't, there's like, it's so hard because any one of these traps, like it knocks over a series of dominoes that like opens up every other trap around it. And it's like, well, now if you do interact with people, you're going to be seeing them through this lens of like, they fucking hate me. Like I knew it. You're just looking for the evidence, and it's just like, oh man, that can like actually really put people off to you. And
exactly.
So even though if they do love you and like you a lot, they might start to actually feel that coming off of you,
dude. And that's like where I felt like I was at like for a while. So yeah, that period was like the lowest of that, and I was like, I just want to like feel connection so badly, just to any like the community or just friends or anybody, But I was doing the opposite, where I was just like, oh, I gotta like figure out what's going on with me. I gotta like work through my shit.
Oh,
so like literally, and I was like beating myself up because I didn't go on this trip. So I had to like go through all of that and then be like, well, why am I doing that? Like I'm choosing to not do this thing that I want to do. And yeah, so that was like all the stuff that came up, and I don't know. I've still been working through it, but
it never ends.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that's like eventually you, I think, get better and better at dealing with, is just understanding that like it's probably going to always come up. I mean, I kind of like, I'm more and more at peace with it, even though like I don't like to like rule things out too. Like maybe you can get completely past a lot of stuff.
Right.
But the life journey is always going to be up and down. It always going to challenge you to like in certain ways.
Yeah.
And I think like,
I think it's always there. Yeah. It's just like learning to be more accepting of yourself and like more open with like.
And every domain is different.
Yeah.
Like people pleasing is not always a problem for me.
Yeah.
But it is in some areas.
Exactly.
You know, like
and you have to
it might be at
it.
work. It might be in a relationship, like your friendships.
Yeah.
Like it could be, there's so many different categories where it can show up. Like for me, you know, intimate partnership is like the hardest journey in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like it's the one you can't hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't hide. Like they're always there. They're going to see it all.
Exactly.
And if you're not cool with it, they're going to see what you're not cool with, and it's going to come out. So it's like, learning to love yourself and all that good stuff.
And
like you hear it out there.
Like voicing your own needs too. Like that's so hard for me. And like, that's what I've been realizing is like, oh, I actually want like friends and relationships that like people are willing to like give on the same level that I am. And like, you know, where I can like voice what I want. And there's people that actually want to like, you know, meet those needs. Cause I just like would never like voice what I want, you know, I just feel like, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
You know?
Because exactly. Cause it's like, again, it comes down to these core, like self-worth problems that almost everyone deals with. Exactly. Like I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. There's like there's so many different books and, you know, schools of thought on this, but I mean, if you get into it, it's like you really start to see the patterns, and it's like, oh yeah, people are like, you know, they're scared that if they lose this friendship, there won't be another one waiting for them that's like actually going to serve their needs. Exactly. So then they go into the people pleasing, but then it, you know, has this core fear-based foundation that sort of like,
and you're not like being genuine with like yourself, because you're like, you know, if all your relationships are like you doing stuff for other people, then it's like, cool, like you're just gonna be drained all the time and not have anything to give or like for yourself, you know. So yeah, that's like just where I've been mentally, is like it's hard because like every interaction, like when you're doing the work, you're like in it, and it's like you're like over analyzing everything, and you're like, cool, am I like doing what I want or what the other person wants? Like, I don't know.
Oh my God,
you just get so like meta.
Dude, the freaking that it's the left brain is analytical. Yeah. That just so gnarly sometimes, because it can be, I think it's something that, you know, there's like the whole autism spectrum and stuff, and like I think that plays into it too, but whatever, it's like there's that like savant like neural pathways that will help, if you develop them, you can like get really insane at like physical activities. You know, like I think partly that's the balance is always the win, but that's like where I see sometimes parkour people climbing like some of these cultures that are movement based, but they're like kind of like mental stuff. Like I just see a little
in the
stroke
like,
of like there's like this is how
I'll just like get through it.
And there's like a little bit of a imbalance there, it seems. Dude, like sometimes with the intuition and the compassion and the other like the right brain stuff. And so then like just knowing how to just be chill is like such a skill, knowing how to be still and silent, and you know, whatever, there's all the dichotomies, the masculine and the feminine, all that, but developing yourself across those other dimensions is so much more difficult when you're when you realize you're super good at this.
Yeah.
And now you're going to start like square one over here.
Exactly.
With the wrong tools. You know?
Yeah. That's so weird. Yeah. And everyone's always like, you're so chill. I'm like, yeah, you know, that's just how I come off, because in here it's like not.
You're like, I'm doing a million calculations per second to give off the perfect chill mode.
Yeah.
You know? And it's
so I feel like I've changed a lot just in the past year, a few months, where it's like, all right, maybe I'll be less chill and just be like actually express more of what's going on, because like it just seems healthier than like trying to be like stoic and like just chill all the time. Because it hasn't been good for me, because I'm repressing everything. And like the other thing I was gonna say was this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, but like with the people pleasing stuff, it's like, I don't know, you kind of realize, like, at least for me, a lot of times, even if it's subconscious, you don't realize you're doing it, but like it's like you're coming at stuff from like a transactional standpoint of like, all right, if I do something for this person, then, you know, maybe they'll do that for me. And you're not asking for it or communicating, but you're just like, let me do a bunch of stuff for you and just hope they'll like reciprocate. Yeah. But they don't actually know that that's what you want.
They're like, sweet, this person must really like doing stuff for me. My life is awesome.
Exactly. So
you know,
that's
because
like,
you'll find the people with, there's imbalances the other way. There's like a certain selfishness or like narcissism that can develop on the other end of the spectrum of people pleasing. And like, if you are putting out the people pleasing energy, you might end up in those people's circles, because they're going to be like, sick, take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, totally. Yeah. You're dead on, man. Like,
yeah. And I think we don't even realize we're doing that a lot of times. Or
it's a covert contract. I read this book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's a good book for people that are kind of like vibing with this conversation. Yeah. It's important, I think, to develop. And I talked to this dude, Trevor Boehm, on my podcast once, who does like men's work and stuff.
Nice,
and part of that is like addressing these things. Yeah. And it's interesting. Plays into the whole like, I mean, there's like I was talking about it even with Max this morning. Yeah. It's like, there's like men need spaces too sometimes to like understand these things.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's always been like, it's in the culture. We all know what we're talking about now. Like, we know that, but still it's not as easy to find it and find guys that are also willing to
by ourselves
admit and work on it with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like still like that. And also the thing is like too, is that other story is not completely untrue.
Right.
Like there's there's never not a trap to fall into. It's like, cool, you can start being like real compassionate and stuff, but then you actually might dissolve some of like the truth of whatever's underlying some of that masculine principles and the stoicism that is valuable.
Exactly.
That is like important actually to either be, some kind of leader, or you just have to your own life together. You know, there's healthy and toxic, but there's
you
healthy
need both
masculine
for sure. And like, that's the thing I realize is like, I mean, everyone probably does this, but like for me, I feel like I go into these extremes.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, cool, I've been focusing so much on this like area or this side of one spectrum, so maybe I need to like pay more attention to what I've been ignoring, right?
Yeah.
But you don't realize it because you're so like close up to it. But yeah, I don't know, man. All that is so hard to like work through.
Well, I'm stoked for you, dude, and I'm inspired, and I'm Thanks, it's all good. Like, it's cool to hear that you're doing that. It's not easy to like, I think that there's a lot of people that go through life, they never even get to like where you're at.
Oh yeah.
They never get to a point where they are even willing to look at their issues in these kinds of domains, or codependencies, or people pleasing, and it's cool because like they have other beautiful gifts and everything's all good. It's whatever. But also it's sad sometimes to realize that like, damn, people will just run their whole life in that mode, never know it.
Dude,
and and ignorance is bliss 2 degrees, so it's kind of its own reward / punishment.
I'm like, I wish I wasn't like dealing with all this shit.
But then if you actually,
utilize
continue the path, then there's much more depth, and you get an even better, like, juicier experience of life.
Yeah, more authentic connection.
So I'm stoked for you. What kinds of things do you feel like you've learned from living alone?
Oh, man. I don't know. Just, yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like I can't, like, stand myself sometimes. So it's just, like, just being able to, like, sit with that and be like, all right, what is it that I don't like, and what do I do differently? Because I'll get into certain habits, or, like, let things fall by the wayside so much to where it's like, it'll, like, I'll, like, push it out of my mind until it's, like, so, like, bad, not bad, but, like, just so apparent that I'm like, all right, I need to deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, like, it's like seeing how you live by yourself. You're just like, damn, I thought I was, like, a little more organized or, like, put together in these ways, and then you realize you're not, and you're like, oh, maybe that's something I should work on.
Yeah.
But when you're around other people, it's, like, sometimes easier to, like, I don't know, repress it or not, like, fixate on it, because it's like there's just more, you know, energy going on that's, like, you know, it's, like, collaborative, so it's like, oh, it's not just me.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't know, it's just basic life stuff, like sleeping, eating, cleaning.
Yeah.
It's like, they seem really basic, but when you're not, like, focusing on it, you realize, like, oh, I actually need, like, routines and structures for these things. So my life isn't freaking chaos.
Yeah, there's so much, like, heuristic and stuff going on in your mind of, like, that you don't realize when you're young.
Yeah.
Like, you're how old now?
I'll be 30 this year.
So you'll be 30. Yeah. So, like, that's, like, a classic example of, like, kind of late 20s.
Exactly.
When people start to come around to, like, starting to recontextualize their whole life.
Yeah.
And it's so intense, because for me, it was like a melting away of, like, everything that was, like, who I was.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh my God, I thought I had all this shit figured out. I had none of it figured out.
Yeah.
I had, like, fucking just a massive house of cards. It was all smoke and mirrors and stuff, and, like, all these little tricks and whatever. And
yeah, I felt like a teenager, like, this past year.
Yeah, you build off the trauma, right? So, like, you build off of, you know, these people-pleasing tendencies, these, you know, these injuries, you know, wounds or whatever that happened to you when you were a kid, and then you create these solutions, but they're all, like, you don't have the understanding as a child to create the right solutions. Or if you do, like, it's just, you're too much pressure from society and from parents and everyone trying to do their best. But to, like, you warp yourself into, like, these, all right, here's my solutions. Yeah. And your solutions start to work. And you're like, all right, cool. And you start to rise and rise, and you're like, okay, fuck yeah, we did it. I'm killing life. Yeah. Got it. And then all of a sudden the house of cards crumbles because, you know, you finally come up against one of your vulnerabilities, and it gets exposed, and then boom, you're back to, like, you're actually back to actually building your life for the first time.
Exactly.
You never even really got a chance to build it like you thought you did before.
You're like, you put so much work into, like, I want to present myself this way, but you don't actually, like,
and you don't even know that.
Exactly.
Like, you think, like,
you're like,
you're so deep in it that you're like, this is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even like, I want to present myself this way. It's like, I am this.
Yeah. That's what you see.
It's like what you feel like. Yeah. But then it's so insane.
Yeah, dude.
It makes me fucking, it blows my mind that anyone, like, that more people don't die, because there's so much unawareness in that phase.
I'm like, how are we just, like, existing? It's like,
it's so ridiculous. Like, you can operate, you're kind of, like, on a weird, like, autopilot for those.
Dude, everyone, it's like the Matrix, like, for real.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I don't know, I've, like, always traveled a lot, and, like, I haven't lived in, like, one place that long. I mean, I've lived in Denver, but, like, I've moved a lot and lived with different people. So this is, like, the first time I've really, like I said, like, lived by myself.
Yeah.
So I've always been, like, super minimalistic, almost kind of, like, out of necessity, because I always am like, I don't know where I'm going to move next, or like, I just want to be able to like, you know, like leave if I need to, or like go travel or something.
The nomad life, sort of.
Yeah. So it's funny, like, just if people come over, or like, I don't know, just seeing my place, it's like, I have like no furniture and like just got like a little 4-inch mattress, like foam pad thing. And like, I don't know, like, it's funny that that's like what I'm comfortable with, you know? And yeah, it's like I almost like fear like settling down, or like falling into like a materialistic trap. And then I'm like, well, like I can like do that without going crazy or like feeling bad about it. But it's like figuring out that baseline for yourself, or that balance, is like so weird.
Yeah, it's one of those, again, those heuristics or whatever that you used. It's like, it's either this or that.
Yeah.
I'm either a fucking sellout, or I'm like, I'm living life like a real human ought to, or like an artist. Yeah. And it's like, well, it's not always that black and white. And yeah, certainly I had the same fear. I think like before I moved in here, for example, I was like, foul bachelor life was the life for me, you know? And like,
I don't need anything.
I don't need shit. And like, I want to be able to just like whatever.
Yeah.
And even still, to a degree, that's like a theme, because I do think minimal, like, again, there's always value to it. Exactly. There's always truth in there's like slivers or chunks of truth in all of it.
Yeah.
But there's like a certain like, what was I thinking? You know, like at a certain point, because I'm like, my life is just,
you're like, I didn't have to live like
it's
that.
Like, yeah, I didn't have to. And there's actually like nothing, like there is some truth to like the you know, the materialistic trap.
Totally. Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
And I can feel that too. But I can also, it's all just about discerning between it all, you know, and it's being able to make that distinction is like something you can do. Yeah. If you know, like, and
you don't know until you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're like, oh, I actually do value these things, or these experiences, or, you know, if you have a few like material things, like the value that provides. Yeah. So
it's super interesting. Yeah. And it's like, and the monk life is a superpower in its own way.
Exactly.
You know, like, I love that, you know, there's an old, I'm sure you might have read, probably everyone's read it probably, but Siddhartha.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great book where he's one. Like, his only skills, he's like, I can fast and I can like, I forget his 3 skills, but they're like 3, like just anything. One of them is just like, I can fast. Yeah. And that's kind of like that one, which is just like, well, I can just survive with very little, dude. And that's a very powerful skill, and it showcases itself in the book. It's just like, sometimes that's all you need is to be able to not need anything, or not need much.
And I feel like that also tied into training for me. Like, I don't know if you feel like that, but like back in the day, it was like, I don't know. I feel like it was so like philosophical, and like, you're like, all right, I'm just going to do nothing except train. And like, I don't need anything else. And the less I have to like worry about like paying for or buying or like have things tying me down, then I can like travel or train or whatever. Yeah. And it's just that like shaped like my identity, I feel like. So I started training when I was like 14, and you never lose that. That's the beauty of it. It's like you still could, like, you have that, it's core. You're like, you know what? If shit hits the fan, I can live like I can go anywhere.
I can live low like material. But it becomes a pathology if it's like, well, now but I didn't realize, you know, and you realized it, but you know, you can be like, well, now am I just like flogging myself like for no reason, or am I like scared to actually embrace a certain level of abundance because
then I'll have something to lose
again. Exactly. And it's like, it's actually more about bold to go ahead and say like, fuck it, I want it and I can lose it. Yeah. It actually, it speaks more to your ability to actually embrace what you've learned 100%. As the monk life, if you can take some of this stuff on. Yeah. Cause it might go away.
And that makes it that much more valuable.
Yeah, exactly. So you appreciate it more, hopefully.
And I appreciate moving more now that I can.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. So what's the prognosis on this? Back to, so we did a nice inspirational
this was a
mental health journey there, Loop. Yeah, that was good.
It was a few years overdue. Well, so I was hoping I would be able to walk in like a month, but so I got this cast yesterday, and I saw the incision for the first time, which looks crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
If you want to see it, just message me.
Yeah.
I had like 20 staples on my, like near my tibia. So yeah, they weren't able to take the staples out yet. Cause it was like, there's one spot where it was kind of like, I forget the term, but it was like some moisture. So it wasn't like fully healed yet. So I have to go back in 2 weeks and they're going to take him out, put another cast on, and then I have to have that one on for like 6 weeks. So it's like 2 months in a cast, and it's already been a month.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 months of like not walking, which is crazy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. And it's, I was hoping it would be like just a month from now. And I was going to go to like on a trip and like, I don't know. I wanted to go to Europe and like, even though I can't train, like Joey wanted to go.
Oh, word.
And I like want to film him because he's killing it. He's like 18 and
Hell
just, Joey Jepson.
Joey
Look
Jepson.
him up.
Young blood. Also, big shout out to Julius.
Yeah.
Because he sort of like initiated this podcast.
Yeah. Julius is the man. He like interviewed me for like an hour about falling because he's the descent king or one of them.
Yeah, he was on here for like a Red Bull watch party, but he needs his own like
he does
thing.
And shout out Keith Puckett too, because they both him and Joey drove me back from Texas like 16 hours. I was in the back with my broken ankle.
Fuck.
But
so 6 weeks or 2 months in the cast, and then, what did the surgeon say? I know that they were kind of like, I don't know if you're going to be doing parkour anymore.
Yeah, they were literally like, I woke up from the surgery and they're like, or maybe it was before, I don't remember, but they were like, yeah, you messed it up pretty bad. Like, you're not going to be able to do parkour or like go running or anything. I was like, oh shit, okay. But I'm gonna like do my best to recover, and I feel like people have bounced back from worse. So, even if I'm not like at my peak or whatever, like, I'll find new ways to like move, and I'm sure I'll be able to do more than I think.
Well, and what's interesting is, we've talked about like the dichotomies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like what I've learned in my, years now that I've spent kind of on a sort of alternative medicine path. In that industry is that there's a dichotomy there.
Exactly.
Where there's like, and what they do, again, like there's always something valuable. What they do is fucking untouchable when it comes to surgical interventions on like exactly this type of situation.
Yeah.
You fucking broke all these bones and you need some surgery and some bars and things to like reestablish your foot. That like style of medicine is primo for that. And then there's this whole other world of different things that they don't even know about. So of course they're not going to think like, oh, that's approachable. And even if they could, that part of that whole paradigm is I can't say that or I could get sued.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. And then there's a whole other world where it's like, who knows what you can do. And, we don't want to like instill expectations and stuff, but I'm excited to see your comeback,
Yeah, same. Me too.
For
Thanks.
sure. And,
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of our, like, just the parkour community has so much knowledge and like recovery and like what you're saying, like alternative medicine to like, there's just so many pathways to like healing. And I mean, I might not have like the same range of motion or whatever if I have a plate in my foot. But I'm still going to do rail prees.
Yeah, for sure, man. And and parkour, that's another beautiful thing about like the parkour being so open-ended.
Yeah.
It's like, it might change your movement style, but it might just like bloom, like make it bloom into this whole different, like, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Injuries are kind of like that sometimes.
I've been wanting to do that anyways, like just get more into like lines and flowy movement and stuff instead of just like power challenges.
And you're gonna, I mean, whether it's the injury like this or it's not, if you're having like crazy peak years like you've had, again, body keeps the score and all that, like there's going to come a time when you're going to have to pay the toll if you haven't paid it along the way. And not everyone paid it along the way. I didn't pay it along the way. You paying it.
I just did.
You just paid fucking lump sum. Like, but either way, that transition comes, and like, it's like, I'm excited. I'm trying to do 10 flares every day.
Oh, nice.
On each side. Cause I've always wanted to like learn some of those breakdancing power moves. And that's like the kind of thing that I'm so new at, that it's like, there's a lot of gains to be made. And
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of like handstands, like arm stuff and stuff, like that's totally unexplored. And I used to fucking shit on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like now I'm like, oh,
dude, it's changed so much. Like I remember back in the day, like people doing like flow or whatever.
Oh yeah.
People were like, what is that? That's not parkour. Like, what are you doing? And now it's like a totally like a whole style, and like everyone does it. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's cool. And yeah, like it is. Yeah. Like I said, it's kind of cool that this happened in a way, because it's like just an opportunity to reframe movement. And I don't know. Yeah. I've been wanting to do that anyways. So
100%.
Yeah.
Last questions I had for you, I think were like, you know, looking back outward now, kind of like the whole descent culture.
Yeah.
And like, not as much, but obviously from your point of view, having kind of like gone through that experience, one thing I wanted to bring up today, and shout out another person, it's over there. Once is Never mag, the zine.
Oh, word. Yeah.
By Reese. There's an article in there, and I'll put that in the description as well.
Okay, yeah.
Let me see where it is.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't looked at it or read them.
The December 2022 issue.
Oh, this is
so Reese
recent.
Reignited this. I think it was going before, and now it's kind of back.
Yeah, that looks sick.
Reese Ling here. But anyways, what was interesting to me, and like when you're talking about how maybe you want to make sure that you stay involved in the community to a degree, because you feel like there's some lessons that you can impart.
Definitely.
There is like, these guys are awesome.
Yeah.
They're from Phoenix.
Okay.
And I love where they're at, and I don't know them.
Yeah.
But also when I was reading through it, it was like kind of mind blowing to me, because there's an article in here, and I hope I'm not blowing up your spot, Reese, by sharing what's going on here. Check out the mag, but there's an article where this guy, like, first of all, he broke his hip in half.
Okay, dang.
Like in a fall.
Yeah.
During doing a roof jump.
Yeah.
And he made he's kind of like made a full recovery. So it's another,
nice.
like, it's an inspiring story. That's in that regard.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened while he was on his road to recovery was another one of his friends died doing some parkour jump.
Yeah.
And it just started to, like, you know, there was always kind of you know, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming, like, but it felt like it kind of never came to a degree. I mean, there's people that we've lost.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was always kind of like
a freak accident or something.
Further, from like, oh yeah, or they weren't really a practitioner or whatever, or that wasn't parkour anyways.
Yeah,
yeah. But now we're starting to see more like people just getting lost, and people in the community is so big now that I didn't even know. I wouldn't have known about it if I didn't read this magazine. I would never have known.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess, like, you know, you've been through the whole journey. Like, you've seen it from no descents to like where we're at now. And I don't think they were doing descents even. They were just doing roof gaps, but it's kind of the same domain.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all this? Like,
yeah, man. I was actually thinking about that this morning or last night, but yeah, I mean, it's like you said, like, we are going to like see more of that, unfortunately, I think. Mm-hmm. And like, it's interesting, 'cause like, I mean, I still believe this, but like, there's always like all that people saying like, oh, parkour is like not dangerous, or like it's safer than other sports, or like, you know, there's so much like progression that goes into it that you're like, you don't do anything unless you're 100%. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like the stakes have like raised a lot, and like, because the bar's like always getting raised, right? Like, descents weren't a thing really like 10 years ago. And like,
well, and I talked about this with Adam Cozy.
Yeah.
And because he was talking about how insurance premiums are
Okay,
calculated.
yeah.
And it's like one of the reasons why parkour actually, and I think I know where you're headed basically, is like because it is controlled and we do control all the variables and there is so much like we can manipulate, we can actually put it in a really extreme situation more than any other sport.
Yeah.
And it's like
and more people are doing that.
Yeah. And we can actually put it in a life or death context more readily. So yeah, keep going. Please.
No, yeah. Basically that. But yeah, like,
and then it's like, is it like now it's feeling pretty dangerous in some way.
And more people are doing that level of things, and you know, more people are seeing it. So
well, and these guys were only a few years into training.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like that's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, I don't want to be the fucking old fart.
Right.
Like, oh well, you didn't do enough push-ups and like backwards crawl up the stairs and stuff. But
yeah, and well, more people are seeing the higher level of things, so they're gonna try. You know, like the whole game is just getting raised all the time. So yeah, I think you are gonna like see more of that, unfortunately. But hopefully, like stuff like this, like talking about it, brings more awareness. And like, you know, like it sucks that I fell, but like I'm glad people can see it, I guess, because it's like I know I'm not like the first person to fall off a descent, but I kind of feel like in a way I kind of am. Like
okay, again, like you're one of like the first ones. Again, like this is how scarce it is. Is like. We can't say that about you. We can't go, oh, he wasn't really a tracer, or he wasn't really a parkourist, or he, you know, he didn't know what he was doing. And blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, dude, this is like fucking, I don't even know the example, but you know, like I said earlier, like you are one of the shining examples of this is how we train. And like if it can happen to you, it opens the eyes to everyone. Yeah.
And that's like, that's why I wanted to like post it and share about it, because it's like, I could have like prepared maybe more for that specific one, but like also just shit happens. And this is the other thing I kind of wanted to get into. It's kind of like esoteric or whatever.
Well, I love it.
But and props if no, never mind. I'll just get into it. It's like, okay, like I could have prepared more and like shit happens or whatever, but like the thing is, it's like you can't ever control all the variables, right? And that's what I spent a lot of time thinking about, is like, because it's easy to look at it in black or white of like, oh, I should have done more, or just it was a freak accident. And like the truth is it's somewhere in between. But like there were just so many variables that led up to that moment that like, that's what I think about, is like, could it have gone any other way? Right. And then that gets into like, you know, like, is there like, how much is there free will? Right.
Yeah, dude.
It just sent me down this hole of like the past few weeks.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, obviously the answer is always somewhere in between, but like it's just like bothered me so much. 'Cause I'm like, if I had all this foresight, then I probably wouldn't have done it, or I would have prepared more. But also like I couldn't have seen like all the factors playing into it that like, I mean, threw off my day or whatever.
If you could control all the factors, like if you really had perfect perception of all the factors, then you'd essentially be God.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wouldn't be interested in doing parkour probably, because you already know the outcome. What's there to gain from that? That's not even a human experience, is to like understand perfectly the whole thing.
Yeah. So there's just like, just countless factors that like led up to that moment, you know? And like, so I feel like, I don't know, it's just hard to wrap your mind around it, because it's like all you can really do is like accept it and be like, all right. I mean, I don't know if things happen for a reason or whatever, but like, you know, like I think like everything led up to that moment, and there was kind of like no other thing that could have happened other than that. And maybe there's something I need to like learn or take away from it. I mean, I already have, but like I'm still in the beginning of like the recovery. So
like regardless if you had the will or not, it's like this is the universe you're living in. If there's a parallel universe where you didn't fall, it's like, well, see you when we can jump universes, or like, you know, if I can like peer into the alternate versions of myself, that'd be super fascinating. But until we have the technology, this is the life I'm living, and I have to kind of respond to it
I feel like I spend so much time in that like gray area of like, how much control do I actually have over things? And then it's like, you know, you do have like control over a good amount of things, but like also just like a lot of circumstances you can't really, they're out of your hands, right? So you're just kind of adapting to life here and there.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I just go back and forth so much with that, of like feeling like, all right, I just need to like go with the flow and like, you know, like just, you know, like Bruce Lee or whatever, be water and like
be water, baby.
Go with the path. But then the other side is like, all right, if you want to like actually change things and like get somewhere, then you have to like, you know, force things a little bit, or like make small changes that lead into bigger things. But I feel like that's so hard for me to like grasp sometimes, because I'm just like, everything is chaos. And like, we're just here like trying to, you know, find our way amongst it all.
Totally.
And neither is totally true, but it's like, how do you balance that, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's so hard. You know, you can lean into the stoicism maybe, and when you're like, this is so chaotic, like I need to, you know, identify what I can control, even if it's not a lot. Maybe it's just like 1%, and I can just focus on that.
Exactly.
And that can be helpful, but then you can get really, you know, narrow and rigid if you're only in that space, and you need to maybe open yourself up. Again, it's like a constant juggling.
It's so hard, man, because I find comfort in the chaos, and then I'm like, but that's like an excuse for me to like not do,
like
not
reject
change
responsibility and stuff. Yeah.
But then on the other end, I like also always catch myself like hyper fixating on things and like trying to force things or control things, and then that will like backfire on me.
My favorite thing is when I'm thinking about this right now is I think control is the wrong space to focus on. Because you can't control, I mean, you can't control certain things about your own, what's happening in your internal, but that's like, we don't really know what percent, I mean, maybe somebody does, but I don't know. And I don't think most people know what percent like of them plays into their whole life. Like the stuff that they can control internally. So and you certainly can't control other people and like the world and the circumstances around you, to a large, like almost, you know, overwhelming degree, you know, but responsibility is my favorite word for this instead of control, because you can break it into your ability to respond, which it doesn't even have to be like about, oh my God, I have to do everything. It just means you can respond. You have an ability to respond to anything in front of you. And just like remembering that it's like up to you how you respond. That is like the fundamental, I think, power that you can remember.
You have a choice over your reactions.
And then the other side of that is that complete acceptance of like what is.
Exactly.
It's like the responsibility is only as big as your ability to like accept, you know, what you're responding to, which is like, if you're only responding to like, again, you can, I guess, like narrowly focus on stuff. Like you have to build that ability to respond to bigger parts of the world and more of it. And like, I can't respond to the trauma in my body and the adrenaline right now, but what can I respond to?
Exactly.
You know, whatever. I don't know. We all need therapy. That's what you're saying here.
Oh man. It's all of that is such a trip. And it's like, it's like, how do you widen your ability to respond to like just different scenarios? Because it's easy to like just narrow your view and like, all right, I'm only going to focus on these things. And then, you know, this life is so much more than that. So you got to like expand your ability.
Dude, it's so crazy. The emotions and stuff that play into it, you know, that's one of the hardest things to get control over your responses. What's your emotional state? And if your fight or flight mechanism is off, and that's why people, I think, always point towards breath work and stuff. Like, if you can control if you can respond with choosing your next breath and how that goes, that's like that's like the fundamental building block of all of the responses you can do. It's like, start there. Is my advice from what I've learned, and I haven't learned a lot. I'm saying I still struggle, but what I would tell myself if I was smart enough to remember this next time I'm feeling emotional, or, would be like, okay, just what's your next breath going to be like? Choose that.
Yeah.
And if you can choose that response, then you have something to like, okay, I've got one fucking block.
Yep.
And I can build around that.
It's like very grounding in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to do more of that. I used to do like cold
too.
showers
We all do.
and all that stuff. And like,
cold showers can be good. I mean, there's like a million
It brings
tools.
you back to the breath too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It gets you in your breath. It gets you
Yoga.
like out of your head and into your body a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is always helpful. Again, if you get that left brain spinning out. and it can be like an endorphin release, and it can like access and fulfill some of that maybe dopamine balloon that you have if you've like built yourself quite a appetite for that through parkour or something.
Like I've been doing that like because I'm just stuck at home and like all right, how do I stimulate my brain?
But then it can be a trap again.
It is,
I remember I fucking
is.
did cold showers in 2021. I did cold showers like every day the whole year, I think, for pretty much. And like in the January I did it like I would start the day cold. Like I would just turn the faucet just till like the water was coming out, like as cold as it can get. And it would just be like, eventually I was like, this isn't good for my body. Actually, like I don't have the kind of body, I don't have a lot of body fat where this is like, it just fucking drains me for the rest of the day ultimately if I do this every day. And I'm not saying that everyone can't do that, but I found out that for me, okay, I got it. I know about cold showers.
Exactly. It's a tool if you need it. But it's like, it's just another thing, right? Like you can
obsess over it.
Yeah, get a fixation on it, which I was there too. Like, and then you get into this like path of like, how can I be my best self? And like, I gotta like,
you can start screaming and shit in the shower.
And then you don't fucking enjoy anything because it's like,
dude.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, this has been really helpful for me.
Me
to
too.
Hear and listen to you.
Thanks, man.
And your experience. So I hope that other people are getting stuff out of it. I really appreciate you being so like open and vulnerable with, the clips and also just telling the story and what's going on in your world. I think it's super relatable and man.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I'm trying to be an open book to an extent.
Yeah.
With boundaries.
Yeah. Hey, it's still got a cover.
Yeah. It's got
a
hard
cover.
Yeah. Hardback.
All right, man. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
Think so yeah, I was kind of all over the place, but
no, I think that was really good.
Yeah,
I mean, we sandwiched it back up into the talk about the drop, which I think was important. But
well-rounded. I like it.
All right, brother. Much love.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go do something else now.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Sounds good.
How many times it's gonna take before I find my way? How many days will
I wake up and go baby. There it was. The legend, Christian Greene. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Christian. Jump in that description. Follow the links to get a piece of his journey in that recovery process. Excuse me. Thank you again to Julius Porter for suggesting and kind of facilitating that. Producer credit for you, my friend, on this episode. And to the homies, Pneumatic, who you hear in the background right now, for their recent release of this music video that you're listening to right now. So go check that out through their channels in previous episode descriptions. We'll see you on episode 120. Peace.